Welcome to the Fractured Families podcast. I'm Charity, a dedicated parental alienation coach here to support and advocate for families navigating the challenges of high conflict divorce and custody disputes. I'm here to shed light on the struggles many families face, offering insights, strategies, and hope for those seeking justice and healing. In each episode, I'll explore real-life stories, expert advice, and practical solutions to help rebuild and strengthen the bond that holds families together. Whether you're personally affected or looking to understand more about these complex issues, you're not alone. I'm here to walk you down this path. Come join me as I navigate the complexities of family law, share inspiring journeys of resilience, and advocate for meaningful reform and the pursuit of family unity. This is the Fractured Families podcast, where every voice matters and every story. This is Charity with Fractured Families podcast. Thank you for joining us today. I have with me Lauren Carr, who is a parental alienation victim, and she's going to tell us her story. So, Lauren, thank you for joining, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you for having me. I have experienced kind of extreme parental alienation from my 3 children in relation to my very contested divorce with my ex-husband. A little bit about me is I was a military kid. I'm married to an Army Ranger currently, and I've moved 30 times. I've lived all over the world. I enjoy doing different types of sports and rock climbing, skiing, hiking. I own a aesthetic institute. So I teach medical aesthetics, regular aesthetics in the state of Colorado. So Rise Aesthetic Institute. I'm an owner and teacher, educator, to empower women to do what they love and make people feel happy and feel good. Part of my journey is that I have all this fulfilling love in my life and I don't have my children.
I'm sorry.
You want me to talk about when the parental alienation started?
Yeah. So talk to me about. So you're remarried, and your children are no longer part of your life. Talk a little bit about how that happened. How long ago did you get divorced or separated from your father? How many children you have? What were their ages when it started? And then.
So I was married for 12 years and then a 2-year divorce because it was very contested. I was married 12 years. We didn't have children until 5 years into our marriage. Our whole marriage was very tumultuous, very abusive, emotionally, physically, mentally. But I was kind of a good girl. And so I was like, well, this is my husband. This is my family. I'm going to just keep working through it. And with each child he continued to get more abusive. We were living overseas in Kuala Lumpur at the time, in 2018 or 2017. And it was just getting very abusive to where I was like, either he's got to go or I got to go. Something's got to change. I took my 3 kids and we moved back to Colorado. At the time, my kids were 4, 6, and 8 years old. I have 2 older boys and a little girl. I remained in Colorado for 90 days until I could reestablish residency, file for divorce. I then had to get my ex-husband or husband at the time to come to Colorado to serve him divorce papers. So it was a little tricky situation, but my kids and I were all living in Colorado and then served divorce papers, started the process. He was very angry from the moment I served him divorce papers. He said, if you're not with me, you're going to be at war with me. And pretty much that was how it's always been. And the thing is I kind of knew in my marriage, I would always joke with my girlfriends, like, well, if I'm going to be with a mean husband, I'd rather be with a mean husband than a mean ex-husband. I thought it'd be way worse then. Then, of course, the abuse got so bad, I had to get out. And I thought the right thing to do was provide my kids with a healthy environment and a healthy mom and a loving environment. Even if they'd be split up into families, we would at least have healthiness and happiness in our life instead of chaos at home all the time, yelling and screaming and abuse. So in part of our divorce, my thing is I had never been divorced before, so I really didn't know what to expect. When my attorneys would tell me things, I trusted them. I think that was my naivety of it. So, of course, in the divorce process, he wanted the CRE, the therapists that come and do your home evaluations. And then we had guardian ad litem. And of course, he kind of set things up. I don't know if there was some other men telling him how to make your wife look bad, but he was like pulling out all the stops. And I was just like, gosh, I'm just trying to leave you. He's so mean to me.
Yeah.
So in that, when it was very stressful for me, so I was in full-time school, living with my parents, as one does when they're getting a divorce, 3 small little children. I was a stay-at-home mom their entire life, so they had never experienced me being gone at school all day long. They had never experienced me working. And then they were just with grandma and grandpa all day and going to school when they were supposed to. And so it was really hard for everybody. It was a big change for my kids not having me around. It was a big change for my parents having a full house again. So when we had these parental evaluations, I was, like I said, naive and thought I was supposed to tell the truth. So when I would tell them things that happened in my marriage, the evaluators would say that I was bad-mouthing my ex-husband. And I was like, no, I'm just trying to tell you the truth. I'm just trying to explain where I'm coming from. So it was very odd that they were almost acting like I was doing something wrong. And so how I came to be alienated was we had the evaluator come, who I had met maybe 6 times or more. And my ex-husband had only met her once because he was living out of state, obviously. I had met her multiple times. She then come to the house. And prior to her visit, he had come to meet her like the week before. And that weekend, he also had the kids because he had only been here twice in 9 months in that whole divorce time. He came when he had a court date. So he came with a court date. He came to meet this evaluator, then spent the weekend with the kids because I was very copacetic. I'm like, hey, if you're in town, have the kids. Great. So he had them the weekend before. And then that weekend, we had the evaluator come to my house. And I didn't tell my kids we were having an evaluator come to the house because I didn't want to stress them out. I just was like, willy-nilly, we're going to have someone come over and talk to mommy. Right. That was it. Hindsight, I think different that they were prompted by their dad because as soon as she rang the doorbell, both my boys went to go hide in my house. And I was like, where are they? So then couldn't find my kids in front of the evaluator. And I'm like looking all over. They were hiding in a closet. And I was like, what are you guys doing hiding? So I'm like, come upstairs. And then my little daughter, she's 4, sucking her fingers. She's sitting with me the whole time. And this lady kept acting very negative towards me. And I couldn't understand why she was like out to get me. And so it didn't go well, I will say, because the kids were hiding. Then they were fighting over the iPad. And of course, I'm feeling all this pressure being watched by this lady. Like I didn't want to discipline them. I didn't want to take the iPad away. So that evening, I called my ex-husband. I said, you need to come visit the kids more. You need to be in their life more. This isn't work. I was in complete duress, basically. And he's like, okay, I'll come next weekend. Okay. So he comes in a few days later, and I didn't want my daughter spending the night with him because she had been around him in a long time. So I was like, Savannah's going to stay with me. You can take the boys for the weekend. And mind you, the boys were in school here. I packed little backpacks for them. So Monday comes around and he didn't return the kids. Okay, so I call my attorney. Where's my kids at? Where is he at? Yeah. And then Tuesday, I get a call from my attorney Tuesday. Still hadn't heard from my kids. He took them to North Carolina, to his mom's house. And pretty much that was the nail in the coffin that ruined my whole life. Because once they were out of state, it was hard to get them back. So he immediately filed for a change of custody, which was weird. So in that turn, I found out that he had met with the evaluator at the Hilton Hotel that Saturday and told her he was leaving with my kids. And she had never called me or told me. And I'm like, how is everybody okay with this? She just knew he was taking my kids and leaving the daughter. So long story long, and I did find out in court that he paid her $10,000 when I paid her $2,500. And I was like, well. So anyways, he got the boys to North Carolina. And then once he did that, filed an emergency order to have custody of, so I still have joint custody of my kids. Of course, I haven't seen them in years. But I had 24 hours to sign this agreement or it was off the table. So the agreement was joint custody every other holidays and summers. And at the time, this was September 2018, I was thinking, okay, Lauren, you're in full-time school, you're going to work. Maybe this is a blessing. I'll see them in November in 1 month for Thanksgiving. I'll see them in December in another month. Then 3 months, I'll see them for spring break. Then 3 months later, I'll have them for the summer. I can use this time to finish school. Going to be okay. I had to tell myself everything I could to just do it.
Yeah.
I agreed to that agreement because I had 24 hours or it was off the table. And my attorney was like, well, we don't know what the judge is going to do, so you might as well do it. Poor advice.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So after I signed that agreement, he came probably the next day or two to get my daughter, who was 4. And so I had zero time to even say goodbye. I never said goodbye to my boys, ever. I thought they were going for the weekend. I just didn't even say. So I had 1 day to say goodbye to my daughter. I just was like, you're going to go stay with daddy for a little bit. Mommy's going to come see you in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as he got my daughter, came to get it. And now I think looking back, I should have just ran with her and got my boys. And anyways, he came to get her. She left. And literally an hour later, I'm blocked from his phone. I'm blocked on his mom's phone. I'm blocked from anybody involved in the kids' lives. And they're 4, 6, and 8. It's not like they didn't have phones. I can email them. It's just zero contact. So that goes on. And I file emergency orders for visitation. So then at this point, as soon as he took my daughter, it's the boys hadn't talked to me since. He took them. And so I always thought, did they think I died? What is he telling these kids? I was a stay-at-home mom their whole life. And then overnight, mom's gone.
Yeah.
And so I had a visit for Thanksgiving a month later. I went there to Thanksgiving from Colorado to North Carolina. I get off the airplane, literally in the airplane, I get a phone call, answer the phone call. It was CPS in North Carolina. They said, hi, we got a request to speak with you because you were here on a visitation. We just want to let you know your children are in fear of you, that you're going to kidnap them, and we want to interview you. I'm like, I actually haven't even got off the plane yet. Where would you like to meet me? So they're like, oh, meet us at the Starbucks. We'll meet you and then do the interview, and then you can proceed to your visitation if qualified. Okay. So then I go meet this CPS lady. I tell her everything that's going on. She's like, okay, maybe it was a misunderstanding. Go get your kid. So I go to where the meetup was, the therapist's office. Kids are gone. Went to his parents' house. They were gone. Nobody was around. Couldn't find him. Nobody's at the school. No one's at the daycares. Gone. So he had left town with them. So then I fly back home. I went to my parents' house in Florida, and then I flew back home because I was devastated. Filed a contempt of court. And then in the contempt of court hearing, they said, well, we're just going to give you another visitation to go now. So then in December, I went back for Christmas, supposed to meet in my therapist's office, gone. Nobody there. Out of town, nowhere to be found. Every place I went, nowhere to be found. I go to the sheriff's department. And I said, I'm here on a court order visitation. I'm trying to see my kids. What's going on? They go, oh, Miss Black, which was my married name. And I was like, yes. And they go, if you come around here again, it's going to be harassment. And I was like, I've never been here before. So I then found out my ex-husband was dating a sheriff's deputy.
Gosh.
So then fly back home. That's Christmas. I try to fly back again a couple months later and fly out there. Same thing happened again. Couldn't find my kids. I went to my ex-husband. Then I went to his work and he was at work. I said, hey, where are my kids? I'm here on my court-ordered visitation. And he's like, call the police. So I was like, well, you know what? I'm not sticking around for that. I left and went down to my parents in Florida, flew back home. And 2 weeks later, I was served in Colorado with a protection order.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I was literally there on a visitation. If I can't find my kids anywhere else, the most logical thing a human can do would be like, maybe I'll go to his work. I wasn't there to harass him. I was there for my visitation. So I fly back 2 weeks later to go to this court. I hire an attorney, and the attorney in North Carolina goes, well, it's going to be thrown out because you're there on a court order. It's not like you're there to harass him. So I'm thinking, okay, it's just going to be thrown out. Well, I didn't know at the time that he was dating a sheriff's deputy. So I go in the courthouse and they called me out of the blue to go into a different courtroom where everybody was sitting in one room. They're like, called me out, went in a different courtroom, and this judge came out, and I had me and my attorney, and then my ex was representing himself. I was like, well, I wasn't here to harass him. I was here on a visitation. And she goes, well, this isn't recognized in North Carolina. If you want a North Carolina visitation, you got to get it converted into the North Carolina state. And she said, by me showing up at his work, it was not following due process, and granted a 12-month protection order for me against my husband and for each of my kids.
Oh my gosh.
So now I have 12 months no contact. It's almost like he was just writing the script of what to do. So then I'm devastated, right? Meanwhile, I still have to work and life still goes on. That's the shocking thing. So I kind of just get through it. And so this is now 2020. Now it's been 2 years because, 12-month protection order, about 6 months. And then after the protection order, I started going to court again, filed for visitation. Of course, when you get a court date, it's like file for court. 6 months later, you get a court date, right? It's not like an easy peasy. So now we're 2020, filing all these things to have my visitations. Then I have to go through reintegration therapy because I've now been estranged from them for 2 years and they don't know me.
Right.
Their mother, who's been their mother their entire life, their only sole keeper their whole life. So me, the victim, I have to go through supervised visitations, reintegration therapy to see my kids. I'm like, fine, I'll do whatever I have to do. So it was skewed a little bit in my view because my kids are in North Carolina via FaceTime at a therapist's office. I'm on FaceTime in Colorado. Nothing out of over 30 of those reintegration video calls, none of them really went well because I would be crying.
Yeah.
My kids would be crying.
Yeah.
The boys would say the boys would come in and the first thing they would say to me would be, Mom, why don't you tell us why you're an alcoholic? Mom, why don't you tell us why you wanted to kill yourself? Like things that my kids would have never known. First off, I'm not an alcoholic. And none of these things. So it's like my ex would tell them questions to ask me right point blank in front of a therapist. So I would be shocked, like the shock and awe, and then not know how to reply. And so I would be like, well, Hunter, that never happened. I don't know why you're saying that to me. And then he would kind of flip out and then he'd hang up the phone. So none of these went well.
Yeah.
The therapist would always write in the notes, like, talk to father afterwards, da 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 da. And she never once talked to me when it was like, okay, thank you, click, hang up. Like I was just gone. And then she was talking to him afterwards. And the thing is, the kids were with him prior and after.
Right.
Anything that was said, my kids were probably always in fear that they were going to, what would have been told in front of the therapist tells daddy. So nothing went well, except at one point, my daughter, who was now 6 at the time, said she wanted to see me. She wanted to visit me. I said, okay. So get on an airplane, go out there, have a weekend overnight. Went fantastic, stuck to me like glue. We cried all the time. We were crying, laughing. She thought I did show her that I had come there multiple times to see her. And she was hysterically crying. She had no idea. And of course, she's 6 at a time, so I'm like sugarcoating things.
Sure. Yeah.
But I did want her to know that I have been trying to come see her. So then, since it went so well, and my daughter was adamantly saying she wanted to talk to me all the time, I got her a phone. My ex-husband wouldn't give her the phone because he said it was a listening device. So then she could only talk to me at the therapist office because he wouldn't let her have her phone. Eventually, he broke up with his girlfriend, the sheriff's deputy, and he started being nice to me. He's like, well, if you want to have Savannah for this summer, you can have her for 6 weeks. So then Savannah came up, stayed out here with me for the summer. Everything was great. A few times were, hit and miss. One time I told her this, am I rambling on too much?
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. Like one time I asked her to wash her hands and she started crying so much. And I was like, Savannah, why are you crying? And she stomped up to her room and was hysterically crying. And I'm like, Savannah, why are you so upset? She goes, well, you just painted my nails and I was going to mess up my polish. And I was like, Savannah, I was just telling you to wash your hands when you're done, honey. You didn't have to do it right now. But it's the abuse that they live in is so fight or flight and so right now, wash your hands right now. You know, she wasn't used to mommy being like, okay, honey, well, when they're dry. And so it was bizarre to see how the levels of cortisol just shoot up because she had thought she had to do it right that second or she'd get in trouble.
Like, she's in constant fear of not disappointing, and she needs to align with him and not like you. And so she lives in constant fear of
all of
that.
my kids do. And the reason why I know all of my kids do is because that's how I felt. I'm an adult. And I'm still in fear of him. And I'm an adult. I know that they are because, for one, I lived it for 12 years. So it's not like I'm making it up. I understand what it was like. So after a visit in 2020, he then got a new girlfriend, and I kind of was trying not to rock the boat. So I saw her one more visitation. I flew to Florida to visit them. Saw her in Florida, had a little visitation. But in 2021, I was kind of getting angry again. Like, this is not right. I have joint custody of these kids. You have to give me my custody. You have to share my kids with me. So in 2021, I filed a motion again for contempt of court because he's violated everything in our parenting agreement, and a motion to revise parenting time because obviously it's skewed. When I did that, that's when he got even more angry at me and completely cut me off from Savannah being able to talk to me. So no way to communicate to her ever. I send packages and they're unopened. He says when I send them things, I'll send an email and talking parents, ask them if they got them. And he says they didn't want them. They donated them. They donate everything you send them. They don't want anything to do with you. You cause nothing but problems in their life. Like he just repeats all these things. And I'm like, well, how would I know? How would I know? So that was in 2021. And now it's been just end of 2024. I haven't had contact with I haven't had visitation with my boys since 2018, since they were 6 and 8. They're now 10 and 12. I haven't had any visitation with my daughter since she was 7. She's now 10. And when I say no visitations, like I'm not even talking on the phone to them. I'm not even FaceTiming. I'm not even email. I don't even know what their voice sounds like. And it's just, he's so tumultuous that I don't know how to react without making it worse for my kids.
So where do you stand?
Because I feel like every time I file something, so that motion, every time that motion, he filed it to my motions in Colorado. He filed it to go to Florida, to transfer to Florida case. And that was over a year ago. And my court case in Florida, I recently looked it up and it says it's been active, but everything's been redacted. So I don't know. Then I had a consult with an attorney 2 weeks ago in Florida. I asked him to have a look at the case. And I said, well, what's the litigation cost? And he's like, you've been estranged for a very long time. It's going to take a very long time. So he's like, out the gate, but probably closer to 50 to 100,000, if I'm going to be honest with you. And I've already spent $100,000 in family court with zero to pay for it, zero to show for it. So it's like, I don't have a lot of faith in doing due process. And so in my therapy that I've had to go through to overcome this astronomical, life-changing grief that's difficult to cope with, my therapists say, your kids are going to be adults longer than they're going to be children. They're going to see what happened. They live in the abuse. And so I never know if it's the right thing to just kind of stay silent and make it better for them. Because every time I try to fight, it's like it gets worse and worse and worse. So in that time, I've started my own business. Like I said, I own an aesthetic school. I fill my time with outdoor sports and skiing and hiking and women and people that love me. The pain is that it never goes away. I always think, I wonder, my kids are 10, 12, and 14. I wonder what they sound like. I wonder what they're having a sunny day, if they're thinking about me at night. I wonder if they think I'm dead. I mean, I don't know. And I have no way to contact them. And the weird thing is every time I talk to people about my story, and they're like, you have joint custody. How does this happen? And I'm like, yeah, I have joint custody. How is this happening? And they say, how is your ex getting away with it? How is your ex getting away with it? Well, he's getting away with it because I've spent every penny I have. And I really just don't have another $100,000 to keep going to court for something that he's just going to throw mud on me about. Well, the therapist, she's been gone for years. It's like, I've been gone because I'm pushed out. I'm being erased. I've been constantly love my kids, adore my kids. I'm a happy, healthy person. My kids were my entire world. I devoted my whole life to them. So I thought motherhood was my purpose. And I've just been completely robbed of motherhood. My children have been completely robbed of their mother. And not only that, but it's like my parents, my sisters, their cousins, everybody's been robbed of their little lives that were consumed me. And I just had to relearn life after death of living children. And it's beyond painful. It's something you can't even describe to people. It's like during the holidays, since 2018, my family, we don't celebrate holidays because why? I don't want to celebrate Thanksgiving. I don't have anything. I don't want to celebrate Christmas. I don't have my kids. I just go through them like it's another day because it's too painful. To the point of like, I have for a very long time, until recently, I would say about the last 6 months, I've slowly started letting people know that I have children. Because it's been so painful that the last couple of years when people say, oh, do you have kids? Because I'm so cute and happy and healthy and like a little go-go all the time. And they always think, oh, you and, Vince would have such kids. And I just say, no, it just didn't work out for me. Because what do you say?
Yeah.
People don't get it. People don't understand.
People don't understand. And the sad and tragic part about it, Lauren, is that if you tell people I had children, they were taken away, the first thing they think is, well, what did you do?
Yeah. What did you do? Unfit.
One mother gets her kids taken away. Well, obviously you did something, right?
Well, and that was the lie I was told to by my attorney was, oh, Colorado's a mother state. Colorado's a mother state. Da, 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 da. And then they're out of state and it's just like, well, SOL.
Yeah. But it's interesting because Florida is a 50-50 state.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So I recently, in this last attorney I talked to in Florida, was like, well, the court in Florida will have something big to say about this. But like I said, I'm scared to pursue it.
Yeah.
And I don't have another $100,000. This attorney wanted 25 up front. And I'm like, okay. It's one of those things where I'm so jaded by family court and the corruption of whoever has the most money wins that it's like, I almost want to be like, I feel like you should show me that you're going to do something, produce what you're promising before I pay you. But it don't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
You're a paralegal instead of a lawyer?
Yes. And the paralegals, say, oh, file this, file this, file this. The other thing is like my ex-husband makes close to 300 something a year. It's like anything I file, boom. He'll just drag it out until I'm sucked dry of money. And then guess you don't get the kids. The thing is it's a game for him.
Yeah. Well, because they're not mentally stable, or they're mentally unstable.
And he really, like, still to this day, even if I just email something like, please send me pictures of the kids, he still is so angry at me for existing. He's so angry that I left him, that like, this is my punishment. This is what I deserve. Everything you ever loved, I got, and he's like thrives on it. And he's remarried. And I'm just like, how can you not? And then the other thing for me is what this mother, their stepmom, who's I've met one time. I'm just like, what do you think? What do you think is really happening? You think I've left all my, like, I just can't, woman to woman, I can't understand where she's coming from. Because like, wouldn't you want to know?
Well, you have to think of it this way as well. Not that we're defending her by any means, but she's living under that abuse too now, right?
Well, so that's what I've told my therapist. I was like, honestly, I pity her.
Yeah, she's a victim now.
Yeah.
And who is she a victim? But maybe she's taken on a protective role of the children. And let's just hope
Well, and
right?
that's what I hope for, because I found out Savannah had told me, my daughter, that she was a orphan or adopted. She said she was adopted. And I go, oh, well, that makes sense. So she probably has like abandonment issues. She probably sees my children as being abandoned, and my ex-husband's abusive. She probably thinks she can protect them. And so I do just have hope. At least they have her.
Right. I mean, it's somewhat of a shield, maybe, hopefully, as
Yeah.
long as she's a decent human being, and
One would hope. Yeah.
she's not too traumatized herself by the abuse to protect the children, because that was your goal, right? Their goal was to keep the children safe. And do they ever have any more kids?
Not that I know of, no. So an interesting thing happened a few weeks ago. My oldest son, Hunter, who's now 14, used someone's. So I have Snapchat, but I don't use it. And so I didn't know that I had a message on there. My oldest son, who's 14, used this girl's Snapchat and Snapchatted me. Of course, it went like 7 days without me opening it because I never check Snapchat. And I opened it and he was doing this. Had his hand up to his mouth, like, be quiet. It was just a picture of him doing this. And the weird thing is I hadn't seen him in so long. I was really questioning, is this Hunter? So I messaged all my friends, messaged my mom. Do you think this is Hunter? Do you think this is Hunter? And he was doing this, like, be quiet. And I thought, my kids are so scared to even talk to me that they're afraid to use their own phone.
Yeah, of course.
They got to use someone else's phone. And I'm thinking, or when I told my therapist is like, well, he's 14. So this is when they start thinking a little bit for themselves. And so I replied was like, Hunter, I love you so much. I won't tell anybody you Snapchatted me. You can trust me. I'm a safe place. I'm a safe person. And then I gave my Instagram snapshot and my TikTok Snapchat. And I said, I keep it all public so you guys can see me anytime you want. Because I wouldn't keep things public for the fact that I don't want to, but I always think, well, what if my kids want to find me?
For
and
sure.
So I keep all my social media public just for that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, no reply. But I think, like, they're just so scared. They're terrified because, well, and the other thing is I don't even know what they've been told.
Of course, you don't know, but you can imagine it's going to be the
think
possible.
It's had to be the worst things possible, because why would a mom do that? He'd have to have some explanation to why I'm just gone. Zero. No. Like, the estrangement was so bad in the very beginning, having a 4, 6, and 8-year-old with me at all times, to silence. The silence was deafening. I remember distinctly being in the shower and I would hear, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, they're here. But it was just like trauma of thinking I would have phantom mommy sounds because I wasn't used to the silence. And I think the very first few years, 2 years of silence was the hardest of my life. I mean, complete depths and despair of pain, deep pain. I can talk about it now without crying because I've lived it now 6 years.
Yeah. In therapy.
And lots of therapy. Yeah.
So we're coming up on our time. I guess my question to you is, for our viewers and our listeners, is what thoughts, tips do you have for others, mom and dads going through this? What can you offer them? And it sounds like you're going through therapy, and how did you overcome that to get to a place where you can have these conversations now?
I think what's helped me the most was, well, 1, yes, therapy. And 2, I thought my whole identity was being a mother. And I really had to find myself. I had to find who Lauren was. And what helped me kind of get through that is I really focused on my career, building a business. I also would recognize that when I would go out rock climbing or when I'd go out skiing or hiking, I wouldn't think about anything else other than what I was doing. And so I made conscious decisions to have other things in my life and focus on myself to be very happy or healthy for when my children do return. I'm in a good place to receive them. I think that friends and family who've understood my pain, I don't share it with new people very often. but my close friends that have been with me through all this, and being able to talk to them, say the same things over and over and over again and just get it out. But really focusing on different things that made me happy and being able to tell myself, my love is going to win. My love is going to overcome this.
Yeah.
And the bitterness and the pain that this other person is causing is not going to affect me every single day. Sometimes I had to tell myself when I was in litigation, okay, I can't do this every single day. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at my court papers on Tuesday, and I'm going to look at my court papers on Thursday. Then I'm not going to let it ruin my weekend. If I have a message from my ex-husband through Talking Parents, which he never does, but when I do, if I got it on a weekend, I'd say I'm not going to open it till Tuesday, because I just had to really put in a box his control over me. And the control he still had over me was that I was just consumed with pain. And I thought, all right, how I'm going to get out of this is I'm not going to let him control my pain. So I'm going to bring people who love me around me. I'm going to do things that I love and choose to be kind and understanding. And, you know, the world has a lot of pain. Every single person has pain in their life. And mine just happens to be this. But a lot of people are going through just devastating loss. And it's important to just be open to we're just doing this human life for the first time. We're all just doing the very best we can, having grace with a lot of people and understanding that the bizarre thing is life just goes on. People still go to the grocery store. You still got to go get gas. You still got to go to work, even though you're just in the depths of despair. So I think one of the things I would suggest is try to not let it consume you and allow yourself to be happy in things that give you peace. Focus on that, because what is happening to you is completely out of your control. So the things that I can control were things I was doing. It's totally out of my control that I can't have communication. It's totally out of my control. Corruption of family court. So when I started thinking of things that I can control, that I can be happy with, and just grow from there, I started being able to make significant change in my life where it didn't consume me so much, even though I'm still like, every time I wake up in the morning, that's probably one of the first things I think of. Yeah. And when I go to bed. But so.
Well, Lauren, thank you for sharing your story. It's so heartbreaking. You're courageous and you're strong. And your therapist is right. They're getting older. They're getting to the age where they start to realize and you did all the right things. Thank you for joining the Fractured Families podcast. And for all my followers, you can continue to follow me on Parental Alienation is Real. Lauren, I'd love to have you back. We could definitely.
I would love to be back. Yeah.
We'll follow up on TikTok and chat a little bit. And if you have anything you need from me, feel free to reach out.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Help you navigate your own family challenges. So remember, healing is a journey, and reaching out for help is a sign of strength. You're not alone. If you fall through, you do.